Good morning, readers. Welcome to week 2 of our online learning journey. This morning in our meeting, we went over our new schedule for the week. So at this point, things are still the same, and at 10:15 every day, you're checking Edmodo for a reading mini lesson. The only difference is, of course, that while you're reading on Epic today, I do want you to go into your classroom and post your thinking work for each day in the document that is called Reading Thinking Work Week 2. And so we know that today is Monday, and so you'll be posting your thinking work here. I'm going to model for you what that looks like, okay, in this mini lesson. And today, readers, we're going to continue our work around characters, and we'll be thinking about how we use everything we know about a character to predict what the character will do next. So remember, when we predict, we make like a good guess about what the character will do next in the story. So we're going to do that thinking work with our friends in Because of Winn-Dixie. And we're going to start with the preacher. We're going to start with Opal's dad, and I'm going to show you what it looks like to predict what a character might do next based on what I already know about the character. So with the preacher, I already know that he's like a thoughtful guy. He seems like harsh at first, but I already know that he like let Opal keep Winn-Dixie. I know that he's kind of starting to become friends with Winn-Dixie. So I'm going to use that to predict what he might do next after this part of the text. He tied Winn-Dixie to a tree and said how there was lots of shade for him and that it ought to work out real good. Well, it didn't. The service started, and there was some singing and some sharing and some praying, and then the preacher started preaching. And he wasn't but 2 or 3 words into his sermon when there was a terrible howl outside. The preacher tried to ignore it. Today, he said. Ow, said Winn-Dixie. Please, said the preacher. Ow, said Winn-Dixie back. Friends, said the preacher. Arp, wailed Winn-Dixie. Everyone turned in their lawn chairs and fold-up chairs. And so I'm going to stop there. And I'm going to make a prediction about what I think the preacher will do next. So I think the preacher is going to let Winn-Dixie into the church. And why do I think that? I think that because he let Opal keep the dog even after he said no. Plus, he's been making friends with the dog himself, petting his head, telling him he's handsome. So I think the preacher is going to go outside and let Winn-Dixie into the church. And I think that because of what I already know about the preacher. So let's try it with another character. Let's try it with Opal. Okay, and we're going to use what we know about Opal already to make a prediction about what she's going to do next. And these are pages, so, they're cut off a little bit, so I'll just fill in the blank. So I didn't have many friends in Naomi because I didn't know that many kids, only the ones from church. And there weren't that many kids at the open arms. Just Dunlap and Stevie Dewberry, 2 brothers who weren't twins but looked like they were, and Amanda Wilkinson, whose face was always pinched up like she was smelling something real bad, and Sweetie Pie Thomas, who was only 5 years old and still mostly a baby. And none of them wanted to be my friend anyway, because they probably thought I'd tell on them to the preacher for every little thing they did wrong. And then they would get in trouble with God and their parents. So I told God that I was lonely, even having Winn-Dixie. And finally, I prayed for that mouse. Like the preacher suggested, I prayed that he didn't get hurt when he went flying out the door of the Open Arms Baptist Church with Naomi. I prayed that he landed on a nice soft patch of grass. Okay, so in this scene, right, this is right after Winn-Dixie ran all around in the church, and Opal's talking to God about her friends, or, I think, honestly, I think that maybe she's actually going to try to become friends with some of those kids. So I predict Opal will try to be friends with, I wonder, out of all of these different people, Sweetie Pie Thomas seems the nicest. Sure, she's 5, but I predict that Opal will try to be friends with Sweetie Pie. And why do I predict that? She's saying she's lonely. And we know that from the past. Like, she already told Winn-Dixie that. I also know that when Opal wants to do something, she does it. So she's saying she's lonely. And I also think that when Opal wants to do something, she does it, right? Like with Winn-Dixie, she basically lied to the store manager, told her dad she was keeping him. And so when she puts her mind to something, she's able to make it happen. So those are my reasons why I predict that she'll actually make a change and become friends with one of those kids. Okay, so readers, as you read today, please be making these predictions about what you think your characters might do next based on what you know about them. And remember to track your thinking in your reading thinking work in the Google Classroom. Okay, so that's the big difference. I'm only asking you to try it out one time this week for each day. So for Monday's thinking work, you'll just try this thinking work out at least one time while you're reading. Okay, so readers, I look forward to seeing your responses. Enjoy your reading today on Epic, and we'll talk soon.